Welcome back to Switch to Linux. So we are going to have just a real quick look here at the draft of the executive order on strengthening U.S. cybersecurity and capabilities. So the Washington Post released this document, and I'm going to have a link to their site where this came from because it was actually quite difficult to find. I was able to find references to it, but it took me a little while to track it down from the actual source itself. So this is one of the many executive orders. Now, this was the article here, I think, is released Friday. I know that I believe it was today that Trump signed 3 executive orders. I'm not sure if this was one of them or not, so I don't know if this is beyond draft or not. I looked into this a little bit. I didn't get that far. I know he signed 3 executive orders. When I'm dealing with ISIS and what was the other one? I cannot remember what the other ones we're dealing with. We'll just watch a brief video on that. But it's getting late here, and I just want to get something up. And this was something that was of interest to me because we are talking about cybersecurity here. So, of course, where I originally found the article is Ars Technica, where I do a lot of my technology reading. So this one here, it's just a simple article bringing up the point here. There is a draft of an executive order. They want to clarify that it has not been confirmed as of yet. But basically the draft gives a 60-day deadline to provide the president with a list of various things. And we'll cover what is in the report here. I have it printed out. And I had a little read through it. All right, so just covers the article here. Just covers a few of the basics. There was actually one important point that I'm going to address here that the article does not mention. And of course, there were, like usual, some pretty good comments down there. So what I'm going to do here, we're going to actually pull up a copy of the document, and this time I actually printed it out and I highlighted a few of the things that I wanted to bring out so that it will hopefully make it easier for you to follow along. And as I said, I will put a link to this video inside of the, a link to the article or the executive order here. Again, this is still in a draft mode. As far as I know, it might have been one of the ones signed. I'm just not completely sure. And the article wasn't updated since Friday, and this is now late Saturday night, and to be honest, I didn't dig super deep into it. This is more just an informational in the event you're following some of this. So, of course, the entire debate happens to be that there's a whole lot of talk and a whole lot of cyber things from both sides in the presidential election, and nobody really seemed to have any grasp of anything dealing with this. And whether you like Trump or hate Trump, that's really not a matter of importance. The matter of importance is one that we are all in this world together that is so reliant on computers, yet so fragile, mostly because we have a whole lot of people who are fairly incompetent with computers running things. For example, I thought it was quite comical. I want to say, was it North Carolina or South Carolina? I think it was a South Carolina, a senator. He's like, we're going to take a stand against bad things on the internet. So every computer sold in our state should have a block on downloading bad things. And it's just like, do you even know how a computer works? I can take your software, whatever it is, and I can bypass it with a thumb drive running Ubuntu. For the love. Okay, and those are the people that are directing the country in many instances. And so I looked into a few things. So there are 2 joint groups, and I'm not sure if this is a good thing or a flat out terrifying thing. But the Department of Homeland Security is one of the people who is going to be doing this, and the Secretary of Defense shall be the other ones. Those 2 guys are co-chairing what is hereby called the Vulnerabilities Review. That is an interesting group of folks because they're both military guys, and I believe it was the Secretary of Defense. He even wrote the book on forcing people to do things with military tactics. which is a great guy to have in Secretary of Defense, just not a great guy for looking into cybersecurity. Like, none of the two people co-chairing this have apparently any real knowledge in cybersecurity. None of them have had any work in the computer world. None of them have had anything in technology world. They were military guys. Great people for the Secretary of Defense, Secretary of Homeland Security, but not so great for looking into the cybersecurity vulnerabilities. It makes no sense. That's just kind of crazy. Of course, everything's the NSA, and so blah, blah, blah. So the NSA makes a point without here. I just got a really big kick out of this. Okay. So in section 1 up here, and I am looking at, I can't even highlight things in this one. It's, you know why? It's because they scanned an image. They didn't do anything with text. So I'm right around here, starting right around here on the cyberspace. So cyberspace must be an environment that fosters efficiency, innovation, communication, economic prosperity without disruption, fraud, theft, or invasion of privacy. Oh my. Yeah, we don't want invasion of privacy. So let's just abolish all of the FCC rulings that Wheeler just went through passing in. And that's what I've had a couple of videos on that topic. It's like, don't sit here and talk to me about we want to not have invasion of privacy. Don't forget that the first level of invasion of privacy is your own state actors that are called businessmen. Because I should still have the fundamental right to decide who has the data that I have. But I don't. And they're just going to make it worse if they remove those FCC rules of privacy. But that being said, that was just I LOL'd on that. Yep, I LOL'd on that point. Yep. So down here, even further, they say the federal government has a responsibility to defend America from cyber attacks that could threaten U.S. national interests or cause significant damage to Americans' personal or economic security. And I'm on board with this. I think that a review of the United States cybersecurity is important. I mean, if a hacker takes advantage of a major power plant like, U.S. did with the virus that destroyed the Iranian nuclear facilities by just destroying their centrifuges. That was just a virus that they eventually spread and was able to be turned on. And, that actually caused physical damage. Well, if a hacker were to access our infrastructure for electricity or whatever, you shut down the electricity on a, component level out of a major city like New York. That's a major issue. And so, yeah, this is an important issue that we need to be looking into. And so I completely support the task of this. I'm just questioning who's in charge of it. So the order says that within 60 days of the order, initial recommendations for the protection of U.S. national security systems will be submitted to the President through the Secretary of Defense. Let me find that article or that part there. Okay, I'm right here. That's the part I just read. All right. And then, of course, they want to make some other recommendations. Let's see. Of course, they copy and pasted this exact paragraph a couple times. All right. So the recommendations shall include steps to ensure that the responsible agencies are appropriately organized, tasked, and resourced, and provided with adequate legal authority necessary to fulfill their missions. And to my end, we don't need the military or the Homeland Security be looking into this. We need another agency to look in this. I'm not saying we should create a new one, but I'm not outside the realm of possibility of that, because we have a whole lot of people with a whole lot of experience in military or in law or in anything else, anything but computer technology. And that really is the core of the point, because we get scammers calling us constantly. We get hackers trying to access files and data. And for the average person in the United States, at least, the only real security that we have is our anonymity, where people are not really seeking to find us because we're not worth it. Although we may randomly be stumbled upon, or our identity may be randomly used as various things are being stolen. But in reality, the greatest first line of defense of this is, as I said in one of my videos earlier this week, was that the best defense for ourselves is to not have all of this information just dangling loose out there. Because I remember I think it was 2008. I was looking for professorships. So I sent out applications all over the place. And, I was not hired at one particular school. And like 6 years later, like only like 2 years ago or so, I get a letter from them like, oh, something was hacked and we believe that all of your information was stolen. And here, we're going to give you a year of credit monitoring service. Yeah, credit monitoring service. That does nothing. Absolutely nothing. My bigger question is, why in the world was this university that had chosen not to hire me hanging on to some employee file with everybody's identity theft dream on it for 6 years? They'd made the decision that they did not want to hire me. They hired someone else. Why are they still holding that? That is a major problem. And frankly, I think that a lot of like the random crazy phone calls, whatever else I might see, very well may be related to that particular hack. I mean, all the stupid random phone calls started shortly after I received that letter in the mail. So thanks for your credit monitoring service, but I think the hackers were looking for something else. All right. So down here, let's see, one more page on. The participants of this study. So we're looking at the U.S. Cyber Capabilities Review. The participants are the Secretary of Defense shall co-chair the Capabilities Review with the Secretary of Homeland Security and the Director for the National Security Agency. Well, at least they have some computer competency. Maybe maybe the legal understanding of things. But that's a challenge. Now, here's the part that I really thought was fabulous. This is a question that I've asked many times. In fact, I think that they seem to be interested too, or maybe this means this little marking, which is actually in the original document. Maybe that means we want to X this out, Lord forbid something good be in here. All right. But they say that in order to ensure the United States has a long-term cybersecurity or cyber capability advantage, the Secretary of Defense and Secretary of Homeland Security shall also gather and review information from the Department of Education regarding computer science, mathematics, and cybersecurity education from primary through higher education to understand the full scope of U.S. efforts and to educate and train the workforce of the future. The Secretary of Defense shall make recommendations as he sees fit in order to best position U.S. Okay, why is the Secretary of Defense wanting to make recommendations to the Educational Department about how to... No. Get a tech geek in there to make recommendations about what we want to do. And here's why. I am working on, and I'm not sure exactly when I'm going to do this or unveil all this, but I'm working on a full course in privacy. And I don't even have a full working title yet, but I'm working on a full course in privacy and personal security for us as an individual personal end. And the reason is this stuff isn't taught. Okay? In my school district, which is one of the most progressive school districts, we have a greater percentage of people with doctor's degrees in our school district. Brilliance. All the kids have Google. They've had Google since kindergarten. They're required to carry their Chromebooks. They do all of their information online, and they have the crappiest passwords because they're never taught the simplest thing about don't put too much information online and use a difficult to use password and just a lot of those basics. But regardless, at least they're thinking about what this means. So, yes, we do need a lot of education, but as of right now, we're pushing all these kids into the technology. We're giving them phones, we're giving them computers, we're giving them tablets, and we're giving them no training on personal security or anything else. Not to mention the Internet of Things debacle. In fact, you know what? We're going to add Internet of Things on here. Okay, IoT security. You know the best thing you can do for your Internet of Things devices? A, don't turn them on unless you absolutely have to have them. And B, every couple days, go by and reset it. Because if your IoT device is being used in a botnet attack, They can't, at least it has not been identified that the actual bug can be flashed onto the IoT device. And so if you reset the computer, it wipes the memory, and so the botnet leaves control. Of course, if you've never secured your IoT device better, well, they'll just get right back into it again, but at least you can, shut it off as a general measure. All right, so general provisions, of course, we're not going to create any laws at this point in time. We just are looking through this. So the good news is that the government is right now looking at how we can better secure the country, of course. Of course, the country's security starts with the individual security, so we need to start there ourselves. But it's a good thing that we need to look into, as a country, what we can do. But we need to look a lot broader than having military guys looking at this. We need to have a lot of other input, a lot of interplay between government and industry. But one of the first things that really has to happen is we as citizens have to have the ability to not have all this stuff dangling online as well, because it's not just a matter of making sure there's a secure password or making sure that we're being smart with our information. We are also deeply dependent on other people who do not necessarily have that good of security. So, my general thoughts, well, first, I think it's better to have a different branch looking into this. I just don't think that the Department of Homeland Security and the Secretary of Defense, I don't think that's necessarily the group of people that needs to be looking into this. I can understand why they would, but they lack the technical expertise. And I'd like to see a co-chair on this who knows something about technology. That's why I'd feel better. So, in other words, get some tech geeks involved. Of course, consider weaker links in the entire platform. Small business is notoriously difficult to secure. Obviously, if you run a small business, you don't have the money to have all of the latest and all the greatest whatevers. But what you do have the ability to do in that instance is you do have the ability to, you have some obscurity, but you can do a couple of simple things. Watching who has access to your passwords and information, and making sure that those are difficult. I literally had a client once who my WordPress site was hacked. Okay, what's your password? ABC123. True story. Lord help us. That's what we need to do. We really need to start with ourselves as individual people. That's going to be the first line of defense. We need to watch out with our Internet of Things stuff, because that turns into giant botnets that are used to brute force structures. One security group actually showed that by using a botnet of Internet of Things devices, they could brute force cracks credit cards in a matter of 15 minutes, I think they said, simply by going to 100 different or 500 or whatever different online stores, grabbing one or two pieces of information, and having each one of the computers in the botnet increment the number by one until they found a successful combination. Whereas it might take a single computer a whole long time to do that, it took a botnet almost no time at all, because A, the proliferation of weekly secured shopping sites, and B, the mass amount of devices you can easily put inside of those. And guess what? It's the Internet of Things devices that are used in most of those botnets. So the first time I heard of something really fascinating being done, a guy actually hacked a network printer and installed Doom on it, which was just kind of cool sounding. But we need to think about those types of things. Do we really need all of the latest and the greatest cool gizmos and gadgets that are perpetually on the internet, especially being that if you don't know how to properly secure those things, and most people don't. And so the Internet of Things devices can get out of your network by utilizing other resources, and that is the one thing you need to stop from happening. So if you notice behind me there's a security camera up there. So with my security cameras, I have them blocked from access from the outside. Even when those cameras are turned on, which it's not when I'm in the office, but when they are turned on, you still cannot access them from the outside. So it's not going to be accessed with a botnet. You have to get through a massively overkilled VPN to get into that. good luck. I mean, it's doable for sure, but I make it a whole lot harder. And then, of course, once you get in, then you have to fight with the security camera. So, those are the little things that we need to do. We need to start questioning all of the things that we're perpetually putting on the internet. Like, does your refrigerator or your oven need to be on the internet? And there are, by the way, they exist, Bluetooth toasters. I mean, Lord, what is going on? All right. So anyway, the presidential administration here is indeed trying to do something about the weakness in the cybersecurity. There's a plan being executed, and that's exactly what needed to happen. Is we need to have a little bit of this back and forth, at least to get the conversation going and to think about it. And we as individual people are the weakest link, and so we have to stop and think more about this. So this has been Tom, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux, which, by the way, is going to help you keep your private information off the internet as long as you're using it correctly.